Hey guys, and welcome. My name is Angela, and I want to reach out to people like me. So, I have a condition known as FND, which is Functional Neurological Disorder, and I struggle with this disorder daily. And I really feel alone, and I'm totally going to be talking the wrong way because I've never filmed a video, so my eyes are going to be like this way when they should be that way. Okay. I don't know how to edit a video. I don't know anything. I just have a little light ring and it's just, so yeah, this is, hot mess. Okay, here we go. Do any of you guys have FND? I started having problems when it was like maybe 2016. And I was officially diagnosed in 2019. It took several doctors, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a neurologist, and an MRI to determine what was going on. So I'm just going to kind of explain to you some of my symptoms with my FND, and we're just going to roll with this because, like I said, I don't know what I'm doing, and I just need to feel not so alone. I've tried to put some stuff on TikTok, and it just fails. It's not reaching who I need it to reach. But I just am in really the depths of this disorder. And I mean, you can go to FND Hope all day long and you can read other people's stories, and they're also different. Across the board, they're also different. And I have no one to turn to. I have a husband who tries to do everything that he can, but it's like the blind leading the blind until you have someone who actually kind of experiences it. Some people either think your symptoms are made up or he's wonderful. I just need to connect with another person, really, that understands what I'm going through. So mine started out with, I would wake up dyslexic, and some days I would wake up colorblind. Some days I would have double vision. And then it went from there to stuttering or slurred speech, to trying to remember words just for common things like a stove or a microwave. And then it went to being off balance to the right. So if I was walking a straight line, I would kind of veer off this way. And I had headaches in the frontal lobe. And some days were no symptoms at all. Some days it was just my normal life as it used to be. And those days were great. I miss those days. So I talked to my primary care doctor, who I was lucky that I worked for. And in his career, he had only seen one other case of functional neurological disorder. And I was also seeing a counselor at the time for anxiety and depression. And so I spoke with him about it, and he was also suggestive of functional neurological disorder. So I was kind of put on medicines in between here and there to try to combat headaches like Fiorset, or I started having pseudo seizures, and it was primarily on the right side. So I know some people who have FND, their disorder is either on the left or right. Mine is primarily on my right side. And if you notice, if you see me on TikTok, I don't have a lot of videos. I'm not all that because I don't know how to handle all this. But you'll see some drooping on this side of my face. And so I kind of know when I'm fixing to have a really bad problem, when the right side of my face feels numb, almost like you've had a dentist shot to numb your teeth. And it feels like puffy when you touch it, and it's just tingles. You don't really have a sensation anymore. And then the right corner of my mouth will droop and it will start to drool. Drool. I never thought I would say that at my age. And as for my age, I will be 49 in a couple of weeks. So like I said, I was diagnosed officially somewhere around the 2019 mark. Some people who I've read online, like I am in a couple of Facebook, see, before my FND, I'd have just carried right on through. I am on a couple of Facebook groups. Jeez. Sometimes it's almost like Tourette's, you know, it's like it stops you and it just messes you up, and then you have to get it out, and then you just carry on. Sorry. I'm on a couple of Facebook groups for people with FND, and I see some of the symptoms are just horrible, completely worse than mine. And I feel so bad because I feel like there's not enough being done. And I see people who have said, you know, they had MRIs and there was nothing on the MRI that would suggest any abnormality. I'm sorry. I had a really rough night last night. The right side upper torso was paralyzed, so my arm was flopping like a fish. So today we're in recovery mode. My MRI does show that I have gray matter in my frontal lobe. They said possible stroke. I have had 3 really bad car accidents. I had an 89 Trans Am GTA. Took it about 15 feet in a ditch and went up a 5-foot bank and hit a tree head on. And then I had a 77 Corvette in which it was completely totaled and I came out through the windshield. And then I had another car and I was sitting at a red light completely still. And a lady could not see that the light had turned red because it was the winter sun. And she hit me running 55 miles an hour. And I know I'm going to butcher this name, I had what was called a contra-coup concussion, which means you had a concussion in the front of your brain and a concussion in the back of your brain. And after that, I could not remember my date of birth, my social security number, information from my husband. I would be driving to work after that, and I would know I was going to work. And I'd driven that route for like 6 or 7 years, and I would completely get lost on the route. And I would have to call my husband and ask him how to get where I needed to be. I knew I was going to work, but I had lost all my landmarks and, you know, normal things. So it took a while to recover from that accident. But I also had childhood trauma, and trauma as an adult from sexual things that, you know, we won't discuss right now, and religious trauma and just some other things that I won't go into. So I know that FND can be brought on by trauma. It can also be brought on, from what I understand, by injury. And it's changed my life. And I can't say it's changed my life for the better. I feel like I do now. You know, like there's just this wicker thing behind me and no one's around and I'm really alone. And sometimes you get scared because you get new symptoms, and sometimes the symptoms will run a course for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they'll move along and then you'll get a new symptom. And so I'm just going to give you guys some list that I can remember of things that's happened to me. I woke up one morning and I was completely blind. I took my medicine that I was given and I laid back down, took a nap, and I woke up and I was normal. I've woken up one morning and had completely no hearing. Same thing. Took some medication, laid back down, woke up normal. I'm fortunate with mine that usually if I lay down, if I take my medication and I lay down, if I lay down for a couple of hours, the doctors say that it can kind of reset the brain a little bit. And apparently that's kind of what happens to me on some days. I've woken up and lost the ability to speak. I sometimes will wake up and look like I have Bell's palsy on the right side of my face, so everything will be drooping down. Sometimes, like if you don't really look at me, you can't tell, but I do have photographs of in the middle of these kind of episodes, and you can see a definite difference. Loss of words, loss of numbers. Like numbers is a big thing for me. I was in the medical field before this, and I was like a medical secretary, did medical records, would work patients up, and I had done that for 20 years or more, and had to take, like information for people's social security numbers or insurance information or telephone numbers. And for some reason, numbers, I struggle with them now, getting them backwards a lot or like miscomprehending things. It's just really weird how all these years you can like balance your checkbook and do all this stuff, and then one day you can't. It just makes no sense. It's like you're looking at another language. Some days I wake up and I stutter. Some days I wake up and the right side, the arm won't move, or the right leg will drag. I've yet to be paralyzed. The doctor that I see, who is my primary care doctor that I worked for, he actually had a patient, the only other patient he's seen in his 30 plus years with FND. The patient actually woke up one morning and she was paralyzed. And I don't think that ended very well for her, which is some of the stories that I have heard with long-term paralysis that they can't not that they can't understand, but that they can't pinpoint where it actually came from. And some days I'm completely normal. Some days you would look at me and think, oh, she's fine, It's made me struggle with my weight. I've never been a skinny girl, which is fine. But since being diagnosed, I found it really hard, even with Weight Watchers, because I've done Weight Watchers, to maintain my weight, because it does zap your energy and it does take a lot away from you. And so in the middle of all this, my balance becomes unstable. And so I'm prone to kind of tipping, usually always to the right side. It's hard. You can't really work out on machines anymore because of your safety. My driver's license was taken away from me for a while. I've now been able to kind of get that back, but I do not drive more than 15 minutes from my home. So I'm completely, the life that I had is gone. Like everything is just gone. It's medical bills, it's people not understanding you, it's your ability to drive, it's your ability to clean the house, it's your ability to have friendships, to have family relationships, it's your marriage. It's not that this is the worst disease anyone could ever have. By no means am I saying that, because there's so much more that could be wrong. But I just really would love to hear other people's stories and see if we can get our stories together. I know over in the UK, there's definitely a bigger support group than what we have here in the United States. For those of you who are wondering, I'm located in Western North Carolina. I was born and raised in South Carolina, and we moved here a couple of years ago to Western North Carolina. The children are grown. I've been in a relationship for 26 years. I've been married 25. And it's hard, my husband's very understanding, and he's very helpful when I have physical problems from this disorder. But my mother acts like it's a disease. And we were at her house a few weeks ago, and I had an episode where I get vertigo really bad. I've never had vertigo in my life. And I have two kinds of vertigo, and I don't know if that's possible. Sorry, I'm going to try to keep this less than 30 minutes because I don't have internet service. So I don't even know if this will upload. But I either have a really high-pitched ringing vertigo, which will make me throw up if I've had it for too long. Or I get what I call the woo, woo, woo vertigo. And that's where almost like you're here and you're standing in the middle of, I would say like air fans, you know, the big industrial fans that sit on the floor. And it makes you off balance. So it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And you hear that in your ears, and you also feel it deep down in your ears. And that actually leads to me passing out or falling over. And I had one of those episodes at her house in which I had to sit down. And I already have a strained relationship because of my stepfather. So that it made it worse. I didn't have any medication at the time, and I wound up having to go from sitting in a chair to actually sitting in the floor, and kind of, because I found that helps the vertigo. And my mother just completely didn't know how to act. And when I spoke with her a few weeks after that, she was like, I just really don't understand how your disease has gotten worse. And it made us really uncomfortable the other day when you were over here and that happened. Yeah, crickets. First of all, it's not a disease. I'm not contagious. You can't catch me. I'm not like TB or hepatitis or other diseases. And secondly, I don't control when my outbreaks happen, just like with Tourette's. It's part of the brain, and you cannot control your brain. So I haven't been back there. And, you know, I was told by someone who I was friends with, you know, like I never was a social person anyway. I've always been like the awkward person. I was bullied in school. You know, you got big ears or big lips or, you know, whatever. I've never been skinny. But anyway, I was told by someone who is one of my friends that I have left that their words to me was, Angela, you'll never find anyone else that will be stable or love you, because this brain thing that you have makes it difficult. And I'm not sure how it is that we can have all the patience in the world for someone who has COPD or who has cancer or other things. They've had a car accident, they're paralyzed. You've got all the patience in the world for them. But when it comes to something that they can't like physically see, they cut you off. They don't want to have anything to do with that. They don't want to go through the ups and the downs of this disorder. And that's very much what it is. I had a good week last week. I was good. I hadn't had any real like major problems. And my husband and I he works, and I try to help out, and we resell, and we do estate sales and different things like that. And we've been running all week. And last night I was literally folding laundry, and it was like you're walking and then you get slower and slower, and then you just kind of feel yourself go off the cliff. And that's what it was like. Like I felt my face kind of go numb, and then I felt it kind of my mouth watering and pulling. And then I felt my eye kind of, the vision was kind of like saran wrap is over it. And then my fingers started tingling on the right side. And that's it. All she wrote. I was down for the rest of the night. My husband gave me my medication, helped me to the restroom, and then we went to bed, which it was already later. It was already after 11 o'clock last night, and so it was about bedtime anyway. In case you're wondering what kind of medications I take Fiorset, which is for migraines. They say it helps relax the nerves in the brain. I take anxiety medication. I also take seizure medication for my pseudo seizures. So when I have a seizure, I don't have a complete seizure. I know some people do, but mine is primarily on my right side. So if you see me having a seizure, usually the left side is still and the right side is almost like tremoring. And sometimes I'm completely coherent when it happens, and then other times I'm not. And it just, you know, I don't know what much more I can say. Like, it's kind of weird. I just woke up this morning and I was like, I need to find people, man, because I'm in a sinking ship and I don't need anything from anyone. Like, I'm not on here asking for anything. I just need someone out there who's like me. Like, if you're like me, please find me. I need a tribe. I need a tribe of people who are confused and people who need to be understood and people who just want to be normal, and unfortunately their brain's like, we're not doing this. You're going to be weird and you're going to do things in public or make family members uncomfortable. You're going to lose relationships. You're going to stutter your words. You're going to forget your words. Boom, you're colorblind. Boom, you can't hear anything. So yeah, I'm at 21 minutes. Okay. What else can I tell you? It feels weird. It feels weird to be talking to like nobody. It feels weird. I've never shot a YouTube video. The only thing I've ever done is like a couple of TikToks, which was more like a little collage of, my area where I live. I could tell you about that. So we live on the side of a mountain in a little bitty town in western North Carolina. If you're familiar with Cherokee, North Carolina, where the Indian reservation is, we are close to there. We live in an RV park model, and there is a guest cottage, which is currently the space I'm in now. There's a bed behind this, and I have a friend, my one friend, because that's all you got left. She comes and visits from South Carolina, and she does the flea markets with us. And I have one dog. She's a Cocker Spaniel. Her name is Annabelle Lee. We are getting a Frenchie puppy. We had a Frenchie and she passed away in February. So we are getting another one. She'll be here in August. Unfortunately, I am not able to work anymore. The doctor that I worked for sat me down and told me, Angela, you can't work anymore. Your brain is very unpredictable. And I got feeling really bad one day, and I went to his office. And when I got there, if I'm not mistaken, my blood pressure was something around 60 something over 39. So if any of y'all are familiar, that's pretty much kind of almost stroke out time. And he sent me immediately down to the ER, in which they gave me fluids. They gave me some hardcore, I think it was Ativan and an IV, gave me some nausea medicine, Phenergan, because I'd started throwing up, sent me to have an MRI. And every time, that's another thing you don't do. Like when you have functional neurological disorder, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. So I may go over 30 minutes, YouTube, or whoever sees me, world. He sent me to the ER, and every time you go to the ER, when you have functional neurological disorder, they test you for a stroke. And it's annoying because you could have a stroke, I'm sure, from FND. Maybe a stroke has caused FND in your life. I don't know. But I've only had been to the emergency room twice with mine. No, I'm sorry, 3 times. And my primary care had put me there, and he said, Angela, I'm sorry, they've got to do the protocols to test you for stroke. He said, I know you haven't had a stroke, but you're presenting with stroke symptoms. And the other time, the physician was an older physician. And any of you, if you don't know, pardon me, if any of you don't know, some people say that functional neurological disorder is what used to be conversion disorder back in the old days. So I went to the ER here in Western North Carolina, and it was an elderly physician, and he looked me over. Everything was fine besides being diagnosed with COVID. And that was another thing, was having functional neurological disorder along with COVID was, there's so many cuss words that I could say to describe that moment in my life, but I don't want to do that again. And I had had my COVID shots, so please don't come at me. I had my shots, I had my boosters. Anyway, the elderly physician in the emergency room told my husband, hey, I think she needs to go to the psychiatric ward. There's really nothing wrong with her. Besides some gray matter in her frontal lobe, she should be fine. She's faking her symptoms. And it just broke me, because I know a lot of people go to the ER for things that don't necessarily have to be addressed through the emergency room. But when you are half paralyzed on one side, and that was one of the episodes where I couldn't really swallow. For some reason, every now and then, it's just like my throat will close up and not swallow. So I'm not really sure if anyone else experiences that. But anyway, I just learned, having this disorder, the people who don't really know you, they're not going to get it. They're going to judge you. They're going to think you're faking it. Even the medical field is going to think you're faking it. You're going to be called crazy. You're going to be told that you need to be committed, that you need to calm down. You need to eat better. You need to lose weight. I don't know. I mean, it just... like, I just need to take a minute, because like, my husband has to work, and so he has insurance on us, and he's gone in the afternoons, and lately it's just been a real struggle, because like, your circle, it seems like with this disorder, gets smaller and smaller, and so your world gets smaller and smaller. When you've lost the ability to drive, when your friends have misunderstood you and decided they're not going to keep on this journey with you, or your family, like, your family is the worst. It leads to worsening depression. Like, it leads to thoughts of not being on the planet anymore. And you wonder, like, how do I fix it? What makes it better? What's the treatment? And so my primary care, he said, which kind of made me feel better, because when I go to him, like, if I get a new symptom, I usually have to go to him, because what he has told me is that pretty much what he can do is basically lessen the severity of your attack by managing your symptoms. So, for instance, with the vertigo, he gives me meclizine. For the extreme frontal lobe headaches, I take Fiorset. If I feel a seizure coming on, I take, I believe it's oxycarbazine. But he has told me he believes me, which I've read so many stories out there of you guys that have this and your physicians don't believe you. So I feel like in so many ways I'm lucky. But I had worked for this primary care for 11 years before this disorder really kicked its severity in. And so he watched me go from being an absolute phenomenal worker, on time, functional, great with numbers, great with patients, lively, to being this kind of shell of, you get diagnosed also with fibromyalgia, usually, what I found, and everything freaking hurts. And you get brain fog, and then you struggle with your weight, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, what he told me, which helped me a little bit for those of you out there, is he said that your disorder is absolutely real. And what happens is your nerves are misfiring in your brain. So take it like a car engine that needs a little tune-up, or it's got a spark plug that's kind of like a little wonky and kind of backfires every now and then. So I feel grateful to be validated by my primary care physician, and for my husband to stand by me and kind of understand what this has done. I have severe social anxiety now. I freak out if I go in public. I'm always wondering what is going to happen, or, am I going to fall over to the right, or am I going to break out in a seizure? Am I going to pay the cashier the wrong amount? You can't go out in public and just feel like you're going to be normal. And I understand, by no means am I saying this is the worst thing ever, because I understand there's people who have lost their extremities and have disfigurements, and they're continuously stared at. And it's just so weird living in a body that you cannot control. You live in a world that now you're absolutely full of emotion, because it's made you vulnerable. It's made you scared to go in public. It's made you, like, I questioned my checkbook. And one time I was balancing the checkbook, and I was supposed to have like 30 or something, and I did 300. And so my account was completely off. It wasn't off for the better. You go from like knowing when your bills are due and paying your bills, and like just taking for granted you're going to walk out the door and go on vacation, or you've got tickets for a concert and you're going to walk out the door and it's just going to be a normal concert and everything's going to be fine. And it's like this constant kind of living on edge, and this fear of what next, or what new symptom is gonna raise its head today and send you back to your physician to try to get something, if it's not manageable, that can at least help with the severity of things. And then there's that struggle, because my physician is now in Georgia. We lived in South Carolina, and then we moved to Georgia, and then we moved to South Carolina, and then back here. So my physician is older than me that I worked for. So then there's that whole fear of, what if my physician retires? What if my physician moves? Or what if your psychologist, psychiatrist, what if they retire, and then you're trying to find someone else who believes your stories? So I've talked enough. I'm at 34 minutes. I'm going to stop it for today. I'm not going to edit this. I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm just going to put it up on YouTube and see what happens, because I need people. Like, we need a community, and we need a community that is judgment-free, and we need better physician care. We need better psychiatrists that understands our problems. We need to help the younger generation that's going to have this problem, because it can really affect your lives. Like, if you can't drive, you can't work usually. unless you work remotely or there's some other thing like that. If your blood pressure drops out, you could stroke out. You could fall out in the middle of a store and injure yourself, and it costs you relationships. And there's so much that people don't understand about this disorder, and I want to help, and I want some people with me. And the one way to start is by casting that first little throw into the water, and so it ripples out. And so that's what I need to do. Like, I struggle with depression and anxiety. My husband works second shift, so I am alone. I don't have a caregiver when I'm here. I do have a service dog, but I need some people that we can get together and maybe have a Discord or share some TikToks or exchange phone numbers or emails or something that we can help each other. So if you're out there and you think you're alone, I'm here. Like, reach out to me, because I'm reaching out to you. And I want us to get through this together, because even though I'll be 49 in a couple of months, if I get to make it to my retirement years, I've got a longer ways to go with this disorder, and I don't want to do it alone. Like, I don't want to do it feeling like I'm the only one out there. So thank you for listening, and I wish you the best.